In a quiet residential neighborhood on the outskirts of Boston, Emily Johnson was concentrating on her graphic design work in her home studio. She was a single woman who had chosen not to marry, instead pouring her passion into creative work. The autumn afternoon sunlight streaming through the large window illuminated her long chestnut hair. Emily's sister Jessica lived with her husband Brian and 8-year-old daughter Sophia in an upscale residential area about 30 minutes away by car. Jessica had quit her job when she got married and appeared to have built an ideal household as a stay-at-home mom. There was the beautifully maintained garden, the perfectly decorated living room, and her constant smile as a mother. However, behind that smile, complex emotions toward Emily swirled. Their parents, Robert and Margaret, were a typical American middle-class couple who maintained an active lifestyle even after retirement. Their love for their daughters ran deep, but they tended to view Jessica, who had married and given them a grandchild, as their successful daughter. The relationship between Emily and Jessica appeared harmonious on the surface. At family gatherings, they would chat amicably and update each other on their lives. However, deep in Jessica's heart, jealousy toward her sister ran deep. Emily's free lifestyle, her success at work, and above all, the fact that she could enjoy her life without being bound by parental responsibilities sometimes tormented Jessica's heart. Emily's niece Sophia was an exceptionally bright and observant girl for her age. Her large eyes were always focused on something, and she listened carefully to adult conversations. Sophia also sensitively picked up on the anxiety and irritation that her mother Jessica occasionally showed. Time spent with Aunt Emily was special for Sophia. Emily respected children as individuals and listened earnestly to Sophia's thoughts and feelings. On Friday night, while Emily was responding to final revision requests from a client, her cell phone rang. It was Jessica. "Emily, good job today. This is sudden, but could you take care of Sophia starting tomorrow morning?" Jessica's voice was higher than usual and seemed somewhat flustered. "Of course. But what's wrong? Is it some kind of emergency?" Emily stopped working and focused on the phone call. "Brian's mother suddenly fell ill, and I have to go to the hospital to accompany her. Could you watch her from Saturday morning until Sunday evening?" Emily felt something was off. She had heard that Brian's mother was healthy and had recently been enjoying golf. However, if it was a family emergency, there was no choice. "I understand. I'm looking forward to spending time with Sophia too. What time will you bring her over?" "Thank you so much. I'll come around 8 in the morning tomorrow. I think Sophia will be happy too." After hanging up, Emily felt somewhat unsettled. She was bothered by the subtle tension in Jessica's voice. However, thinking about spending a fun weekend with Sophia the next day, that feeling of unease gradually faded. At 8 o'clock Saturday morning, Jessica arrived at Emily's apartment with her daughter Sophia. It was a refreshing autumn morning, but Jessica's expression was somewhat clouded, lacking her usual brightness. Sophia jumped with joy at the entrance. She was carrying a small pink backpack and holding her favorite stuffed animal in her hand. "Hello, Sophia. Let's have a fun day together." Emily knelt down to match her niece's eye level and smiled gently. Jessica appeared to be in a hurry and handed Sophia's luggage to Emily. "I've packed clothes, a toothbrush, and medicine too. Contact me if anything happens. It'll be fine." "How is Brian's mother feeling?" When Emily asked, Jessica hesitated for a moment. "Oh, yes. The detailed test results aren't in yet. Anyway, I need to be there with her," Jessica answered while looking at her watch. "Well then, please take care of her." Jessica left hurriedly, and Emily and Sophia waved goodbye. However, Emily felt something was off about her sister's flustered behavior. "Mama was acting strange," Sophia murmured quietly. "Why do you think so?" She was wearing different perfume than usual. And she had on a new dress. Why would she wear a new dress to go to the hospital? Emily was surprised. She was impressed that an 8-year-old child was observing so closely, and at the same time, she felt that Sophia's observation hit the mark. Indeed, Jessica had put on makeup more carefully than usual and was wearing an elegant dress. "I'm sure it's to cheer up your father's mother," Emily answered gently, but doubts were growing in her heart. The two had a wonderful day together. They played at the nearby park, ate ice cream, and Emily let Sophia draw pictures in her studio. Sophia was imaginative and had an excellent sense of color. They cooked together, watched movies, and talked until late at night. However, even after Saturday passed, there was no contact from Jessica at all. Emily tried calling several times, but all calls went to voicemail. Even when she left messages, there was no reply, and her worry gradually increased. Sunday morning, while having breakfast with Sophia, Emily tried calling Jessica again. Again, there was no answer. "Mama hasn't contacted us," Sophia said worriedly. "She must be busy." "In hospitals, there are places where you have to turn off your cell phone," Emily tried to reassure her, but she was feeling anxious herself. In the afternoon, Emily decided to call her brother-in-law Brian. However, Brian's phone also went to voicemail. "That's strange. Both of them can't be reached," Emily murmured. At that moment, Sophia suddenly spoke up. "Aunt Emily, actually, on Friday night, Mama and Papa were fighting." "Fighting?" "Papa was angry at Mama, saying, 'Are you lying again?' Mama was crying. But when they noticed I was on the stairs, they both suddenly became quiet." Anxiety ran through Emily's heart. She had thought Jessica and Brian's marriage was going smoothly, but there might be some problem between the couple. Around 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon, Emily's cell phone rang. It was from their mother Margaret. "Emily, something terrible is happening." Her mother's voice was agitated. "Mom, what's wrong?" "I got a call from Jessica. She says you kidnapped Sophia." Emily was stunned. "What are you talking about?" "Jessica left her with me. Jessica is crying, claiming that you took Sophia away without permission." Brian is furious too. He says he's going to contact the police. "That's wrong, Mom. Jessica called me Friday night saying it was an emergency and asked me to take care of her. But Jessica is denying that she said any such thing. She says you're lying." Emily's head was spinning in confusion. She couldn't understand why Jessica would tell such a lie. "Don't Dad and Mom believe me?" Silence continued on the other end of the phone. Eventually, Margaret answered in a heavy tone. "Emily, we love you, but Jessica is a mother. She wouldn't lie about her own child." After hanging up, Emily stood there in bewilderment. Sophia was looking up at her with concern. "Aunt Emily, are you okay?" "I'm fine," Emily tried to smile, but her voice was trembling. That night, Emily spent sleepless hours. She couldn't understand at all why Jessica would tell such lies or what purpose she could have. Sophia was sleeping peacefully in the next room, but Emily's heart was raging like a storm. The next morning, Emily was making coffee with a heavy head. Having spent the night without sleep, she had deep circles under her eyes. Sophia was still sleeping, and morning light was streaming into the quiet apartment. Around 9 in the morning, there was suddenly a knocking sound at the front door. When Emily hurriedly looked through the door peephole, 2 uniformed police officers were standing there. Her heart began to beat violently. "Who is it?" Emily asked in a trembling voice. "Boston Police." "Are you Emily Johnson?" a low male voice answered. "Yes, I am." "Could you open the door? We need to talk with you." Emily opened the door with trembling hands, unfastening the door chain. 2 police officers were standing there. There was Detective Sergeant Harris, an older male officer, and Officer Davis, a young female officer. "Emily Johnson, you are under arrest on suspicion of kidnapping." Detective Sergeant Harris's voice was calm and businesslike. "Kidnapping? What are you talking about?" Emily's voice cracked. "You are suspected of unlawfully taking Sophia Miller. You have the right to remain silent." "Wait. This is a misunderstanding. My sister Jessica left her daughter with me." At that moment, footsteps could be heard running up the stairs. Jessica appeared, out of breath, with tears in her eyes. Behind her followed her husband Brian and their parents Robert and Margaret. "Sophia. Where is my daughter?" Jessica screamed while trying to rush into Emily's room. "Ma'am, please calm down," Officer Davis restrained Jessica. "You took her without permission. Why did you do such a thing?" Jessica cried out while pointing at Emily. "Jessica, what are you saying? You're the one who left her with me. You said Brian's mother was suddenly ill." Emily desperately tried to explain. "I never made such a call. Stop lying." Jessica's voice became hysterical. Brian stepped forward. "Emily, why did you do this? Jessica has been crying and contacting us since Saturday, saying her daughter was missing. When she returned from taking care of my mother, Sophia was gone. But Jessica said your mother was sick." "My mother is fine. She was playing bridge with friends yesterday." Brian's voice was filled with anger. Detective Sergeant Harris raised his hand to request silence. "Mrs. Miller, I understand you have evidence?" Jessica took out her smartphone with trembling hands. "This is it. This is the email Emily sent on Friday." When the detective looked at the smartphone screen, a message supposedly sent from Emily's email address was displayed. "I will take care of Sophia. Let me keep her with me for a while. Don't worry. I never sent such an email." Emily was shocked. "That's not all," Jessica continued. "A neighbor saw it too. They saw Emily lurking around my house late Friday night. An elderly woman appeared on the stairs. It was Mrs. Parker, Emily's neighbor. I certainly saw her. Around 10 o'clock Friday night, this person parked her car in front of the Miller's house and seemed to be waiting for something." Emily was confused. On Friday night, she should have been at home the entire time. "Furthermore, there's this too." Jessica presented another piece of evidence. It was a recorded voice message. What came from the speaker was audio that certainly sounded like Emily's voice. "Jessica, I'm taking Sophia. You don't deserve to be a mother. I never said that. This is fabricated." Emily shouted, but the surrounding gazes became cold. Their mother Margaret stepped forward with tears streaming down her face. "Emily, why would you do this? Even if you were dissatisfied with Jessica's child rearing, this method." "Mom, believe me. This is all lies." Robert said with a stern expression. "Emily, the evidence is clear. Give up." Detective Sergeant Harris took out handcuffs. "Emily Johnson, you are under arrest." At that moment, Sophia appeared from the back room in her pajamas. She had woken up due to the noise. She looked around at all the adults and showed a confused expression. "Sophia." Jessica tried to rush to her daughter. However, Sophia backed away and hid behind Emily. "Scary," she murmured in a small voice. "Sophia, it's Mama. Come here," Jessica called out in a gentle voice. Sophia shook her head. Then, in a trembling voice, she began to speak. "Everyone is lying. Aunt Emily did nothing wrong. Sophia, what are you saying? This person kidnapped you, panic mixed into Jessica's voice. That's not true, Sophia said in a stronger voice. Mama is lying. You said you were leaving me with Aunt Emily. I heard it on the phone. Jessica's face turned pale. Sophia, you're tired. You're confused. However, Sophia continued. Mama, you put on new clothes and nice-smelling perfume when you went out, right? You didn't go to the hospital, did you? Sophia, stop it, Jessica's voice became sharp. Sophia, with tears streaming down her face, murmured in a small voice, actually, Mama went with Uncle Mark. Be quiet. The moment Jessica shouted, the air in the room froze. Detective Sergeant Harris's hand stopped. Officer Davis also looked at Sophia carefully. Brian's face changed from anger to bewilderment. Who is Mark? Brian asked in a low voice. Jessica was flustered. That's, well, a neighbor. Uncle Mark is Mama's special friend, Sophia continued innocently. Mama always talks with Uncle Mark. When Papa isn't there. Brian's fists trembled. Jessica, explain. Detective Sergeant Harris knelt in front of Sophia. Sophia, did Mama really call your aunt? Sophia nodded vigorously. Yes. Friday night, Mama called Aunt Emily and said, please, take care of Sophia. I was listening on the stairs. The detective slowly stood up and stared at Jessica. Jessica's face turned completely pale, and her whole body was shaking. Mrs. Miller, let me ask you again. Did you really not call your sister? Jessica tried to open her mouth, but no words came out. While Detective Sergeant Harris's sharp gaze was fixed on Jessica, the air in the room was heavy with silence. Sophia was still pressed close behind Emily, looking anxiously at the tense expressions of the adults. Sophia, the detective spoke in a gentle voice. Can you tell us a little more in detail? Do you remember what Mama said to your aunt on the phone? Sophia nodded slightly. Mama said, it's an emergency, please. Then she said, Brian's mother got sick. Brian's face contorted with anger. My mother isn't sick. I just talked to her on the phone Saturday about going to play golf. Jessica desperately tried to make excuses. I was really worried at that time, but it turned out to be nothing serious. Stop lying. Brian raised his voice. Saturday night, when you were supposed to be at your parents' house, I called my mother and you weren't there at all. Your mother said, Jessica never came here. Jessica's parents, Robert and Margaret, showed expressions of shock. Margaret said in a trembling voice, Jessica, don't tell me you lied to us too. You never said you were coming to visit us on Saturday. The color drained from Jessica's face. Her web of lies was being revealed one after another. Sophia spoke up again. Mama, you said you were going to a hotel with Uncle Mark, right? You called it a special weekend. Sophia, stop, Jessica tried to silence her daughter, but Officer Davis intervened. Let the child speak, the officer said in a stern tone. Sophia continued with tears streaming down her face. Mama has been talking with Uncle Mark all the time lately. After Papa goes to work, Uncle Mark comes to the house. Mama told me it was a secret, but Aunt Emily taught me that lying is wrong. Brian slammed his fist against the wall. Mark, you mean Mark Davidson who lives in the next block? The one who just got divorced? Jessica couldn't answer and just stood there. Detective Sergeant Harris began to calmly organize the situation. Mrs. Miller, you left your daughter with your sister so you could spend the weekend with your affair partner. And to your husband, you lied saying you were taking care of your mother at your parents' house. However, when your husband called your mother-in-law to confirm, your lie was about to be exposed. Jessica had no choice but to nod while trembling. So you came up with another lie. The story that your sister Emily kidnapped your daughter, the detective continued. This would divert your husband's attention from your affair and allow you to play the victim at the same time. Emily said with indignation, but what about those forged emails and recordings? Detective Sergeant Harris turned back to Jessica. You prepared them in advance, didn't you? Using AI voice synthesis technology, it's possible to imitate your sister's voice. Emails can also be forged. Officer Davis added, the neighbor woman who gave false testimony was probably bribed in advance as well. Mrs. Parker hurriedly began making excuses. I just got $500 from Jessica and was asked to testify a little. I never thought it was a real kidnapping case. Emily's parents were stunned. Margaret approached Emily with tears streaming down her face. Emily, I'm sorry. We should have believed you. Robert also bowed his head deeply. My daughter, forgive us. We were completely deceived. However, Emily's emotional wounds ran deep. Dad, Mom, did you really think I was the kind of person who would do such a thing? After watching me for 35 years? Brian shouted at Jessica, why did you do this? Framing Emily as a criminal, destroying our marriage, our family, everything. Jessica finally collapsed. Kneeling on the floor, she began to confess the truth while sobbing. I'm sorry. I couldn't bear it anymore. I was jealous of Emily's free life, and when I was with Mark, I felt like I could return to my single self. That's no reason to frame your sister as a criminal. Brian's voice was filled with anger and despair. Jessica looked up. At first, it was only supposed to be for the weekend. But when you called Mother and my lie was about to be exposed, I panicked. So you sacrificed your sister? Emily's voice was cold. You tried to destroy my life to hide your own lies. Sophia said in a small voice, Mama, why did you lie? I loved you so much. Those words pierced Jessica's heart most deeply. For the first time, she truly understood that she had betrayed her daughter's pure love. Detective Sergeant Harris stood up. Jessica Miller, you are under arrest on charges of perjury, false reporting to police, and defamation. The sound of handcuffs being placed on Jessica's wrists echoed in the silent room. As she was being led away, she looked back at Sophia one last time. Sophia, forgive Mama. However, Sophia buried her face in Emily's arms and wouldn't look at her mother. Brian approached Emily. Emily, I'm truly sorry. For suspecting you and saying terrible things. Emily answered with an exhausted expression. Brian, you were deceived too. But the fact that even my family didn't believe me is not something I can easily forget. Officer Davis said to Emily, Ms. Johnson, we also apologize for being misled by the evidence. All charges against you are dropped. However, deep wounds remained in Emily's heart. The loss of her family's trust, her sister's betrayal, and most of all, the fact that Sophia had become a victim of her mother's lies made her deeply sad. Sophia looked up at Emily. Aunt Emily, what will happen to me? Emily hugged her niece. It's okay, Sophia. Everything will be okay. However, she herself couldn't be sure what okay meant in the midst of this chaos. 3 months later, Jessica's sentence was handed down at the Boston courthouse. Due to charges of perjury and false reporting, she received a 6-month prison sentence, but because it was her first offense and she showed deep remorse, she was given probation. However, her parental rights were revoked, and family court proceedings began to determine Sophia's guardian. Brian filed for divorce and sought sole custody of Sophia, but because his work often kept him away from home for long hours, the court questioned his parenting ability. On the other hand, when Emily offered to become Sophia's guardian, the family court investigator highly evaluated her life stability and strong bond with Sophia. "Sophia, where would you like to live?" When the family court investigator gently asked, the 8-year-old girl answered without hesitation. "I want to stay with my aunt." Emily officially became Sophia's guardian. She moved from her apartment to a house and prepared an environment where Sophia could live comfortably. Since graphic design work was possible from home, she was able to provide solid support for Sophia's school life. However, repairing the relationship with her parents took time. Robert and Margaret apologized to Emily many times, but she didn't easily open her heart. "Dad, Mom, I lived as your daughter for 35 years. Yet when it mattered most, you didn't believe me." "That fact won't disappear," Emily said quietly but with firm resolve. Margaret answered while shedding tears. "Emily, we were truly wrong. Please give us another chance." Time became medicine, and gradually the family relationship recovered. Especially, the fact that Sophia wanted a relationship with her grandparents became a major catalyst for reconciliation. A year later, Thanksgiving dinner was held at Emily's new home. At the table sat Emily and Sophia, along with Robert and Margaret. Brian also participated with his new girlfriend, creating a complex but warm atmosphere. "Aunt Emily," Sophia said after the meal, "I'm very happy now. Real family isn't about blood relations, is it?" Emily smiled while hugging her niece. "That's right, Sophia. Real family is a relationship where you can love each other, support each other, and above all, be honest with each other." During her probation period, Jessica was receiving psychological counseling while working at a small cafe. She hoped to visit Sophia, but since Sophia herself was judged not ready yet, this hadn't happened. Still, Jessica continued to write letters to her daughter every month. 2 years later, in spring, on the day Sophia turned 10, she decided to meet Jessica for the first time. It was a short visit under supervision, but Jessica apologized to her daughter while shedding tears. "Sophia, Mama did truly terrible things. I hurt you and Aunt Emily and tore the family apart." Sophia looked at her mother and said, "Mama, I've already forgiven you. But my home is with Aunt Emily." Those words were painful for Jessica, but at the same time, she could feel her daughter's growth and strength. Currently, Emily and Sophia are living happy days. Sophia achieves excellent grades at school and enjoys drawing pictures in Emily's studio. The two are bound by a bond like a real mother and daughter, having found true family love beyond the difficulties they overcame. Not only blood relations make a family. They learned through experience that a relationship where you can believe in each other, support each other, and face each other honestly is what makes a true family.